Grizzy and the Lemmings is a modern-day Tom and Jerry, but replace Tom with a fat lazy oaf and replace Jerry with like 25 Jerrys, and they act like minion fiends. Both Grizzy and the Lemmings obsess over Yummy, their fictional Canadian off-brand of Nutella. The two fight back and forth every day of their lives, but not just for the chocolate spread, but for the ancient amulets and the plethora of magical objects, potions, scepters, talismans, time-traveling objects, hyper-powered electronics, superpowers, or a new state-of-the-art gadget. Through a whopping 312 episodes, aka almost 37 hours, there is a really hidden and ambiguous, and I mean really ambiguous story, and I watched all of it, with very little sanity remaining. So now, basically, I'm gonna report my findings. This is Grizzy. He is a grizzly bear that loves yummy chocolate spread, fish, and, well, really any food for that matter. He loves watching his salmon documentary, playing video games, and he loves the Lemmings. Not really, but there isn't a total hatred between them. It is proven to each side that without the other, life would be dull. And they work together plenty of times when they realize they really do have a common cause. Yummy. The Lemmings are lemmings, little mouse creatures. They are hyperactive little demon things, usually acting as a conglomerate tower or forming a larger body with each other. They don't really have a leader, and they're disposable. If a few fall off of a cliff, no biggie to them, mostly because they can't die. They are like a bouncy ball or rubber. Nothing is going to crush or kill them. Kinda like the weird uncle, they live to party. They love loud music and dancing. All they ever want to do is have fun. But usually everything they find enjoyable is super annoying. Like wrapping themselves in Velcro and then launching themselves onto a welcome mat. That's cruel. They live in Nutty Hill Park, British Columbia. While the forest ranger goes away for whatever business he has, they take the keys and live inside his cabin. We never really see this guy, and we never really see them sneak in besides the intro, so safe to say, they just usurp the cabin. The cabin is built right on the very edge of a cliff, surrounded by ridiculously steep roads. They might as well just be vertical. But before I get into how they remove Earth from the solar system, let's go back. Like antediluvian back. Way back to a time before bears and lemmings existed. To a time of the Grizzming, an ancestor of both bear and lemming. The Grizzming is the size of a bear, but colored and attitude of a lemming. Not much is known of them, but more than one of them are found frozen in amber in the Amazon, and they have been re-released into the world. Skipping forward to a traditional prehistoric time, Grizzming has evolved to bear and lemming. Cave bear likes to do what modern Grizzy does, just rather under a dolmen than a cabin. Cave lemmings do just as their descendants do, except there isn't any Yummy. The cave iterations invent something better than the wheel, the first batch of Yummy. Using acorns and what appear to be almonds, they break open a dinosaur egg and mix the nuts with the juices inside. Yummy yummy. That's why they call it Yummy, because it's mixed with dinosaur embryo. They taste their newborn spread and love it. But guess who doesn't? The mother dino who just watched some primitive mammals literally kill her soon-to-be child. A chase ensues, and the half-egg bowl of placenta chocolate is preserved in amber, along with the dinosaur. The cave lemmings likely died off, but the cave bear would encounter humans sometime in the future. The humans would learn to tame the bear using a magical necklace, and then the cave bear was sentenced to an iced tomb, which seems intentional based on how it was left. The humans made an explicit cave painting tutorial on the wall explaining how the necklace worked, in case the bear were to ever be released. So much world generation and terrain changes followed this. Weathering and Pangea or whatever, all that stuff you're supposed to learn in 7th grade. On top of their tombs, the forest ranger's cabin would eventually be built, leading to the first time Cub Grizzy and Kid Lemmings found it. The Lemmings just wanted a friend, but Grizzy ain't having none of that. They accidentally find their way into the cabin via kinetic energy. While in there, they explore all the human items and technology. Grizzy steals the ranger's lanyard badge and sandals and would never take it off from here on out. The Lemmings discover music and Grizzy discovers TV, all becoming permanent obsessions. And then, most importantly, they unearth the Yummy drawer. And they get addicted, altering their brain chemistry, becoming dependent on chocolate spread that isn't that great. This truly begins their rivalry. The two sides hate each other all for some brown goop. The Yummy packets get stored in a lunchbox and fall off a cliff, being saved in a branch, but they don't know that, leaving it there to get rusty until they find it years later. Bringing us back to modern day. They love Yummy so much they try to make their own, and it's a little unconventional. I don't know, being out in the backwoods, no civilization, being addicted to a substance, and there not being enough to go around, I'm thinking Yummy is a certain thing. It rhymes with drink flavored with grenadine, or watching a concert in the mezzanine, Walt and Jesse. Okay, it's basically only Grizzy and the Lemmings, but there are a few other characters. She-Bear, Grizzy's counterpart, And boy, believe me when I tell you, he does not deserve to have Riz in his name. Just call him Gee. Grizzy falls head over paws for her, literally does anything to impress her. He's a big ol' simp, with no Riz. A big ol' sycophant, with no Riz. The key is to find someone who loves you for you. You shouldn't change yourself. And Grizzy didn't learn that. Also, that's bad advice. You should probably change a little. Just, in general. First, he changes appearance. He works out for her to slim up a bit. He tans in a tanning bed for her, makes popcorn for her, plays piano, catches butterflies, makes balloon animals, learns how to meditate, and then it gets a little weird. He jumps on a trampoline for her, hang glides, plays with Jenga blocks. He does this only because she seems to take interest in it, so he does it. He even wants to take the Forest Ranger's engagement ring and give it to her. He does all this knowing she's already been someone else's Ursa. She's a hoe bear. She's got a kid. Sorry, Grizzy, but her and the cave she lives in has something in common. She has a cub. She's never given a name, but Grizzy is in charge of watching her for a day, which he isn't very good at. Let me just mention this one more time. Grizzy is really creepy. He watches her and spies on her, and he's still stupid enough to not realize she does not want him. Beyond she-bear, there are moose. They have zero personality and are just animals. Animals that get taken advantage of by the lemmings. They are almost exclusively led with a carrot on a stick for a massive ungulate ride. There are bats, also used for flying rides, and finally raccoons. Not really used for rides, but these raccoons bring in fleas to the cabin. Grizzy cooks up some chemical with stuff from around the house and accidentally makes a growth serum, turning the fleas massive. It's probably the glyphosates. Grizzy uses the same homemade potion when the lemmings use a spider in the house for a bungee jump. Grizzy sprays the spider and it falls into a lemming's mouth, consuming it whole. This turns that lemming golden and gives him spider abilities. There are a few one-time appearing characters, like the polar bear, floating on an ice chunk. It floats to Canada from one of those icy places, and they have to keep it cool, otherwise it becomes lethargic and useless. It also becomes one of those poor animals the lemmings saddle up. At the end of the episode, the polar bear floats back to whence it came on an ice chunk, with Grizzy and the lemmings frozen inside. Another fleeting character is the baby dino that is delivered to their door. This isn't some time travel stuff, we will get to that, but this little dinosaur is once again saddled by the mouse-adjacent pests. But not for long, because the dino finds another dino, and the two fall in love. Grizzy and the lemmings make it no longer their business and just let them be together, which does mean they are now proliferating the dinosaur species in the 21st century. So other than playing Mario Kart and learning how to combine rockets and pipes, wait, are they making explosives? They're messing with sorcery. Now, I'm not going to list every single thing. We will actually be here all year if I did that, because seriously, every episode resorts to some sort of magic. Some of the plots for these 7-minute episodes are so ridiculous they could be the main subject for an entire Indiana Jones movie. Sorry to everyone who loves this show, it's not super original. Once you've seen 3 episodes, you've seen them all. Anywho, the magical objects have no origin. It's never explained, nothing's explained in fact, because, well, they don't speak, but they really don't hint much either. They're really hoping the viewers have an analytical brain, or perhaps they just don't care and make stuff up as they go. Probably that one. But I'm that kind of writer's worst nightmare. I'm going to try and make sense of all of it. Probably not well, if we're being honest. A lot of the objects are found on the side of the mountain behind a secret room. There is a lot of secret rooms, and said rooms have cave paintings. Some of them definitely resemble Native Americans. So that's the first possible origin. Grizzy finds a 4-leaf clover-shaped perfume bottle embedded inside of a rock. It's like the most useful item in Minecraft, a luck potion. A different time he finds a heart-shaped bottle with a love potion. Whoever consumes it falls in love with the person in front of them. Grizzy, of course, had intentions for She-Bear. She really needs to get out of there. Grizzy is that type. The kind that have documentaries made about them. The kind that you can't leave your drink unattended. They find a magic dream catcher. Said dream catcher also has a jewel that makes a teddy bear a voodoo doll for Grizzy. They find a room containing an ancient table with historical events. The animals are able to use it and basically connect their minds to the past. That's how they learn about the yummy origins. Next to this table is the same dinosaur and egg yolk Nutella flurry, frozen in amber, which they unleash, but that's neither here nor there. Grizzy finds 2 pieces to a teleporter. They are basically portals. Stick something in one, it comes out the other. But when they are connected, it makes a full-on teleporter to anywhere you want. One piece was a yin, the other was a yang, and they make the symbol when connected. A magical Ludo board underground. A room that holds magical power turns a fidget spinner, yes, a fidget spinner, into a crazy powerful weapon. A stick that lets you time travel, which they do. They get a quick view of the scenery, but don't exactly do anything consequential. Speaking of time travel, I'll be right back. I have to do some story building from last week. Okay, sorry. There is a scepter that can change animals into other animals. They find a treasure map which leads to little crowns that can materialize anything you want. The whole materializing thing is a constantly recurring theme, by the way. There's a scepter that when beamed with moon rays, it turns the lemmings subservient, something I think they are naturally prone to, as other evidence shows the lemmings believe a lemming puppet is their master. But again, it's neither here nor there. Grizzy gets his hands, claws, on a stopwatch that can wind back and stop time. A magic punji flute that makes living and non-living things dance. That seems like more of a curse. A magic figurine that can switch spirits. A magic mirror that makes dreams come true. A stick that can bring inanimate things to life. A de-aging potion. A top hat with an infinite void inside. An invisible chemical. A hatchet that separates personalities, creating a good and evil Grizzy. There's one of those scammy arcade fortune tellers, but the magic ball shows the future. Said future sphere breaks, combining with a tablet, making it so they can select their future out of a few options like a game. A sign materializes whatever is drawn on it. There's a genie in a lamp. Well, bear genie, and lemon genie, and frog genie. An elemental medallion that lets the user possess elements. A horn that turns a moose into a rainbow moose, giving it the powers of a unicorn. An eagle amulet that gives the powers of a bird of prey. And finally, of the ones I'm mentioning, an old spell book, or grimoire, if we're being fancy, that allows you to shapeshift. They give no clue to their origins. Everything is different and irrelevant of each other. I mean, my only real conclusion is the Native American thing, because of the Dreamcatcher's eagle amulet and the drawings that show up often. Although the origin of the Dreamcatcher is with the Chippewa, and the Chippewa didn't live anywhere near British Columbia. If that's wrong, not my fault. My other guess is something is definitely in the water. I saved an entire section for a bunch of the weird nature-related stuff. So this is possible option 2. A meteorite crashes into the planet, which causes red and blue berries to grow. Eat a blueberry and you grow huge, eat a red berry and you shrink. Grizzy catapults a lemming one time, and it flies through the northern lights. Actually into it, not through it. Into it, leaving a hole in the wall and everything. What's supposed to be intangible is tangible. This causes that lemming to be all sparkly and rainbow and can basically use the force. It rains one day and bouncing mushrooms grow as a result. They get some beans, and when eaten with sody pop, they turn into balls. This eventually causes them to blast Earth out of their solar system. But again, for the third time, or however many times, it's neither here nor there. Because when after the credits roll, the reset button is hit and everything's peachy. Gotta love that cartoon logic. So, the third option. Perhaps the cause of this is the radioactive facility nearby. I mean, that's definitely possible. Have you ever seen The Simpsons with that three-eyed fish Blinky? They fall into it one time after Grizzy took care of his lemming homeboys all day from being sick. They once combined some chemicals in the garage, and the lemmings get a Hulk effect and turn purple. Eventually the moose gets this and becomes destructive. And of all things, air freshener undoes the chemical reaction. Sort of similar to the magic, there is an absurd amount of electronics and gadgets. Most of the time, the gadgets are regular things like phones, tablets, vacuums, and they happen to fall on a power line, circuit breaker, substations, Palpatine, or whatever else emits electricity, giving them power to the nth degree, crossing the line into supernatural. When a tablet is zapped, the games on it become real and they become the actual players in real life. A cuckoo clock is struck once and it makes everything dance. I never said the electric effects were useful, I just said they were powerful. There's robots, quite a few, all meant for services like a Roomba. Grizzy sticks a processing chip into his head and becomes mucho inteligente, so much so that he is able to predict the future. A universal remote meant for more than a TV. It controls any object in the cabin. A magnet combined with an oven mitt and electricity make a gauntlet of sorts and basically gives it the force, but only with metal stuff. The cabin also has Guantanamo Bay level security. The house has automatic security able to kick Grizzy and the lemmings out. And something that goes hand in hand with that is drones. Drones are a large part of many plots, usually used as a means of delivery, weaponry, cavalry, all the rees. They also have meta-glasses. Wowie! There's a handful of objects, both magical and technological, that fall off a train. Not like the lie for stealing, but they actually fell off a train. And since it's a Canadian military train, they are all possessions of the Canadian military. They get a little circle keyboard that acts like a world edit. They get a tool that lets you phase through solid surfaces. There's a laser that divides things into multiple smaller ones. The final and most important thing I'll mention from the train is a multi-dimensional portal. I'd like to know where the government got that. The Forest Ranger's cabin is now a yummy museum, and these intelligent versions of Grizzy and the lemmings are there to protect the yummy and not eat it. This devolves into a chase going through multiple dimensions, one with a dinosaur and raccoons, the moon, and so on. They're not really cool dimensions, and I don't think the writers really understand the difference between dimension and time travel, but whatever. What if all the mysterious properties of Nutty Hill isn't magic, chemicals in the water, or science, or the military, but a result of a superhero? Yeah, I doubt it. But in one appearance, this ship that looks like it's from the toddler version of Star Fox shows up, and a mask falls out. A raccoon gets it and gains superpowers. The superhero gets it back and goes away. So, maybe this isn't all the result of a superhero. But I know what it really is. Like, for real. I know the actual answer. I'm not kidding now. A company. Zenithal. I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced. I don't think anyone can fact check me because they never say it in the show. Most of these products, not just the technology, but basically anything in the show, is made by a company called Zenithal. All of the technology, like 3D printers, hoverboards, a fridge that doesn't let you eat based on how fat you are, that's not a half bad idea, transport buses shipped via helicopter, Mentos that give you freezing powers, lemon juice that gives you super speed, so fast they are able to travel from Canada to Mexico immediately. Zenithal makes food, technology, the buildings, they've even infiltrated space. They had a space station satellite thingy that crashed, which contained a gravity gun, which changed the direction of gravity on the subject. But beyond that, on the many occasions Grizzy and the Lemmings head to space, one time they find a Zenithal moon base. On the moon, there are spacesuits for all kinds of animals. Bears, lemmings, wolves, and or dogs. Humans, of course, and it's all Zenithal brand. Why? Maybe it's some complete control over the world. Perhaps Nutty Hill is a test, one big observation site of experiments on the wildlife to see how they respond. Even the drones are Zenithal, so it's possible, but unfortunately, I don't believe that's the case. At least not specifically Nutty Hill, because the entire world has Zenithal products. Maybe Zenithal has taken over the world. Maybe, just maybe. Or perhaps it's time to move to part 2 of the story. Part 2 of 2, World Tour. Grizzy and the Lemmings accidentally shoot a harpoon into a plane, which carries the entire cabin, ripping it from the ground, dropping it in China. They spend a little time there and travel to the Pacific, then Antarctica, then Africa, to Scotland, to the Amazon, back to Antarctica, back to the Pacific, then back to Africa, going back to China, and ending in Scotland. It's about as much of a world tour as when singers go on a world tour and only go to like 6 different countries, but whatever. I don't really understand why they had to go back to these places. There are certainly enough places around the world that they could go to for story. But hey, at least we have 6 new locations to delve into. In China, the cabin lands right on the Great Wall. They probably aren't that appreciative of that. Here they meet a panda, and he really doesn't do anything. But in China, there are ancient Chinese magic shacks. They find these little tiny rooms, and there's just some magical little thing. The magic powers and items in China, and all future locations, are all region specific. So here the magic is cursed fortune cookies, dragon and monkey statues that endow kung fu and tai chi energy ball skills. One mini temple is dedicated to a panda statue, and that whole scenario is about making a little bread thing. And when they complete the task, the statue panda becomes a real panda and Grizzy and the Lemmings become the statue. A raccoon there crashes into a black and white stone, and a light beams onto it, turning him into a yin and yang raccoon. Depending on his mood, he creates a force field of hyperactive energy or slumber, affecting those who enter it. Grizzy and the Lemmings pull on the raccoon, something that should have literally ripped him in half, but instead they separated him so there's a yin and a yang raccoon. Also, China is home to grasshoppers that give anyone anything they want, so that's cool, I guess. Is that cool? Then there's the typical real life Smash Bros, real life Just Dance on the Great Wall, real life cartoons, a Da Vincian level puzzle dungeon that makes no sense, especially considering it's a talkless show and I have no clue what's going on. Yeah, basically the typical. Let's go to the Pacific. Now he's on an island, and this one doesn't have any polar bears, but there is a grizzly. For once, there really isn't that much interesting going on, besides causing a volcano eruption with hot sauce and befriending a bunch of crabs, along with a remote-controlled giant crab that all likely come from their Crablantis. They don't do much. There's very little magic, but what there is really boring and kinda dumb. This is probably the dumbest. A magic oyster makes a magic pearl that when you touch it, said pearl makes you sparkly and allows you to move the pearl telepathically. But you can only move the pearl, nothing else. So that's dumb. They summon a pirate ghost, a shell that makes them starry looking, and a conch shell that controls whales. Okay, that one's pretty cool. I want that one. I don't know if this island has a Maui or Dharma initiative keeping this magic junk around, but they do hint at something with more cave drawings. They float themselves to Antarctica, where there shouldn't be any items or man-made things. But there is. They frequent a research facility, and the company behind it, Zenithal. Antarctica has the most unique happenings of all the places, and if I were a betting man, I'd wager they're studying magic. I'm guessing they're trying to figure out where the stuff is coming from. Inside the facility, they find a frozen mammoth that is brought to life. They actually find a lot of prehistoric life, like a saber-toothed raccoon, which they thawed out, along with a giant chicken and dinosaur. Someone should probably be checking on how many dinosaurs are being brought back to life. A tanning bed that turns the sky to a projector. It's kind of trippy, but it's that detail that tells me they are studying magic. Because there is a magic device not far from the facility that is able to form constellations and make the sky change colors. They are using that magic technology to make their own high-tech stuff. The Lemmings of course abuse it and cause the sky to quickly flash colors, causing all epileptic people around the world to seize up. Could you imagine the damage they cause? There is a lot of things that perhaps date back quite a long time, like a magic bone found under a dolmen that when touched changes your appearance to prehistoric, also altering your behavior rather primitive. They find a sealed away ancient evil spirit that of course they release and it possesses them. They also play a Pokemon Go equivalent and bring all the creatures to their world. While in the frozen tundra, they also befriend, make enemies with quite a few animals. Penguins, walruses, or walrusi, and they find a baby polar bear without a parent. Remember that polar bear that floated to Canada? Is this possible that that is the missing parent? They find the parent by the end, but it still doesn't rule out that possibility. However, all the polar bears look the same, so is it really the same bear? Yes. They find a quote-unquote Yeti, which is just a large white bear. I know Yetis aren't real, but we have so much media, and I've never seen one looking like a bear. And speaking of completely real beings, Santa. We all love him. I personally know him. They crash his sleigh and he plummets into the snow. Way to go, guys. You killed Santa. Not really. Blasting to Africa. The episodes here have not a lot to do with Africa, besides like ostriches and elephants and little huts, and Grizzy catching mosquitoes and probably getting malaria. They might as well be back in Canada with how wacky some of these magic things are. You got all your basic scepters, masks, a keychainizer, turning things into a keychain. That one's really dumb. But what's interesting is this little idol thing that makes whatever you want teleport to you. Grizzy makes his beautiful she-bear teleport to the harsh climate of Africa. They barely get to do anything and she is teleported back, and was never seen again. That's not a joke. There are thrones that control the wildlife of Africa, and another to control the bugs of Africa. When Grizzy sits on the animal throne, there's this ostrich right here that I think they forgot to animate. He's got that lead paint stare. What is he thinking about? What is he going to do to this bear? What is he contemplating? If there's a throne for those African animals, does that mean that there's one in Canada for Grizzy and the Lemmings? Give Xenothal some time and they'll find it. Grizzy becomes a Discord mod and stares at a screen for so long that his eyes are too sensitive to be exposed to light. But what if their entire existence is a simulation? A game. The Lemmings find a void room underneath a rock that lets them play a village simulator with the cabin, moving furniture, and all the other stuff you do in Sims. At the very end of the episode, they hit the reset button, clearing the entire world. But don't you worry, it all is fine the next day. Cartoon logic. More importantly than the mysterious white bat and the air conditioner falling in love with the fridge is the truest revelation of where Yummy comes from. Forget the dinosaur juice thing. They basically get a dowsing rod that finds whatever material you put in it, and they put Yummy in it, finding that in fact Yummy comes from the ground. They have struck crude Yummy. Maybe Yummy really is a fossil fuel. I mean, Yummy was first created in the dinosaur days, even though the fossil fuel fossils are from way before the dinosaur days, but who am I to say real logic applies? Finally, for Africa, she-bear wasn't the only apex predator to reappear, but the polar bear comes back, this time falling out of a zoo truck. But you see, this polar bear is actually a different one from the Canada one, because, well, I mean, it's obvious. Do I really need to say it? Yeah, I don't really need to. Their distinction is clear. Anyone can figure it out. On to Scotland, home of the accent everyone does incorrectly. There are castles, and there are sheep. And speaking as an American that's never been there and know nothing about it, that's all there is. Hey, any Scotlanders? That doesn't sound right. What's it really like? I'd love to find out because I can't leave the country for certain reasons that I probably shouldn't get into. Basically, everything magic is found in a room of the castle. A trunk that combines objects, fairies that make things sentient, weird menhirs, a weird magic ball thing I don't know how to explain, an elf room that turns them fantastical, materializing books, and lastly, going with Scotland perfectly, a magic shepherd's crook that controls sheep. I think they already did that without the magic, but okay. They find a Yummy replacement in Scotland, which is Jelly. Kinda weird because as far as my limited research tells me, there's no special connection to Scotland and Jelly. They really like it, but I would say it's exactly 59% less than Yummy, which is still a lot. Also, a lemming gets licked by a werewolf and becomes a werelemming, and Grizzy befriends a sheep and wants to give it a proper education. Also, there's a duplication laser. There is one final location, the Amazon rainforest. where all my next day delivery things come from. Here they find the magic stuff in temples and ziggurats from one of those ancient civilizations. Good thing there's no hints to point me in a direction of which one it's supposed to be. It's only, my job to inform people about it. They very clearly had no ideas for this place because besides being found in temples, it's just the most random stuff. A sphere thing that controls Earth's rotation. Okay. A super lemming transforms plants to giants. Duplicates of them appear, but it's a cub Grizzy and old lemmings. A golden tapir statue blasts them with his golden zapper. A magic tiara controls fireflies. The skulls of discord. The red one makes someone evil and the blue one makes someone good. A frog swallows an ancestral jewel. A hand scepter that looks like one of those book fair things. It sort of acts like a Midas touch for whatever material you give it, eventually turning Earth into a big Brussels sprout or a head of lettuce. Bracelets that give the properties of a bat, parrot, or tapir. The military accidentally drop off a top secret sphere that's actually a compass, and they pull a Gru. Using an ancestral console, they shrink the moon and pull it to Earth. And then the events of Despicable Me play out and it starts to regrow. This isn't magical, but there's a massive behemoth parrot, and he has his regular puny parrot steal a bunch of stuff from the cabin, and then Grizzy and the Lemmings have to have a boss fight. They end getting transported back to Canada, but the cabin gets destroyed, so they rebuild it in like less than a week. And it ends. So they're back in Canada and ready for a season 5, which will likely contain... Let me think hard here. Dang. I didn't think I'd be put on the spot like this. What will it have? I mean, they need ideas, so... Probably magic. No. They wouldn't do that. I don't know if they've done that before. The show isn't that far-fetched. They wouldn't use magic. Okay, maybe they would. Probably they're gonna use magic. That's the end of the show. There was a little promotional thing for that thing going around in 2020. They wrap a mask around Grizzy, but hey, they go on your ears, and if you look here, not his ears. And a second promotional for hitting 1 million subscribers, but that was just an avoid, probably not even canon. Apparently the Lemmings are literate enough to spell subscribers on a plaque. I have one final theory for Xenothal, now that I have wrapped the show in a nice little bow. Maybe they were studying magic, or they're a dystopian overlord, or any of those things I mentioned before. But maybe they've isolated Grizzy and the Lemmings, given them all these products and surveilling them for the purpose of finding out how a cartoon world works. At the ends of episodes, the cabin blows up, or they die, or some other crazy thing happens, then the credits roll and it's all fixed. Maybe they are studying that. Perhaps they are trying to figure out how that phenomenon works. The phenomenon being cartoon logic. They're actually probably not doing that. That's a dumb idea. Okay, that's the actual end of the video. But I just gotta say thank you all for subscribing. I have hit 150,000 subscribers. I couldn't have done it without you. No, not you. You in specific. And if you're not subscribed hearing me say all this, you probably feel a little awkward, so you should just hit it. Thanks. Like, seriously. It's pretty fun doing this. Well, not this video. This one was a little tough to get through. Very generic writing. But you can't win them all. Anyway, subscribe. Also, join my Discord server. I'm active like twice a day in that. Also, follow me on Instagram. I really don't do anything there at all. But I will eventually. Like, a year from now. So you might as well get in line early. So, yep. Thanks for your continued support and interaction. And encouragement. And all the actually comments I get telling me panthers aren't a species. And foosas aren't big cats. And that I say Agi wrong. What was it supposed to be? Ogie? Sorry, I misgendered the actual number 2. I say this stuff like I hate it. I actually love it. I don't know if it's a weird masochistic thing, but it's really fun to be corrected. Next up is 1 million. And then I will conquer all of YouTube.